This is no leisurely game of frisbee in your local park. This is the Pro League, where your heart will spend half the game at near max capacity, where you risk fractures, tears, and even concussions, and where the simple act of throwing a disc can end in multiple player collisions. And what's more, there is no referee. It's all in the spirit of the game.
I remember my captain gave a speech midway through the season. He's like, yo, this is more important than school. This is more important than your fucking girlfriend. This is more important than your family. Like, this is your fucking family. Like, sacrifice everything for this.
It all starts with the first pull.
In general, you can kind of create an X across your body. It kind of, follows the same mechanics as throwing a baseball, or really more so hitting a baseball. You're really trying to create as much length as you can across that posterior sling so that you can snap it back together and really contract the muscles in a pretty plyometric way to create as much force on the disc as possible.
It's never coming back. It's never coming back. Yes!
It's not called ultimate for nothing. It's the height of athleticism and sportsmanship, engaging every part of your body for that perfect moment when feet leave the ground and hands meet the disc.
Basically everything I'm looking for in a sport. It's like the greatest game of catch that's been invented.
This is Your Body on Sport. So, you've made it onto the New York Empire, 3-time UFA champions, just in time for a home game against the Toronto Rush. Your body's got a lot of catching up to do, so let's get training. Luckily, you've got Jack, Ryan, and the rest of the team to help you. Jack's the captain, Ryan is the team physical therapist.
Yeah, I think the general body archetype is relatively long, relatively lanky, but not to the point where you have somebody who's 7 feet who can't get up and down the field.
The most dangerous players are people that strike the balance of being tall and being lanky, but also still keeping really quick twitch movements.
A lot of it is both endurance and speed. So being able to run 3 to 5 miles in a given time space and running it at a pretty quick pace, but then also being able to sprint and then recover and go do it again.
Ultimate is on par with basketball and soccer on the Met scale. Playing Ultimate, you're burning energy between 8 and 9.5 times faster than resting. That's heavy cardio.
I know for me, now being in the game for about 10 years, it's changed dramatically, not only in the way that, the game is played, but also the way that people train. People are a lot faster, people are a lot stronger.
There's an incredible amount of jumping and running, starting, stopping, and all that's in the calves and the meaty thighs. So in terms of the athletic portion of the sport, it's all hips down.
No doubt you're feeling this energy to Ultimate that sets it apart from other sports. That's the spirit of the game, a game where referees are nowhere to be found.
So when you feel a stretch, just push into me. Use your hamstring to push down and relax. Oh, dude, I love these. These are the same cleats, the Hirachis, right? Yeah, these are awesome. Just keep in mind it's this one, not winning at all costs. It's not, completely going through another person to go get the disc, but also it's being a good person and, taking pride in not just your results on the field, but also how you actually achieve those results.
Studies show experienced players aren't just more athletic, they're also more emotionally aware, better team players. So it's down to you to call fouls when you see them, and when you cause them. And despite being a non-contact sport, you're very likely to make contact at some point.
One of the nice parts about Frisbee and it being somewhat self-refereed is you and your opponent can generally agree on how much physicality you're willing to give that game. And so there's usually some level of communication back and forth throughout the game. You're being matched up with the same defender, an offensive player. And over the course of a game, you can sort of agree on how much is too much. Most of the time, especially at the higher levels, I think people have embraced a pretty high level of physicality, understanding that in the heat of competition, physicality is going to happen. It's technically a non-contact sport, but I would say it's similar to the level of basketball. Contact is technically a foul maybe, but there's some gray area where you're willing to sort of meet in the middle somewhere.
Fouls aren't just about contact. In Ultimate, you're not allowed to move with the disc. So once it's in your hand, you'll have to decelerate, stop, and make your decision quickly before the stall count ends at 7.
Every time you have the disc and you're throwing, there's gonna be the defense marking you, trying to prevent you from throwing it. So in order to throw it around them, you have to pivot out very wide and around them both ways. And again, it's like a lot of strength in the glutes and the thighs. So in terms of throwing, creating a really stable base for you to release throws accurately is very important. So you definitely have to be strong with your lunges.
So when you're throwing, there's a person guarding you, like marking you. So if I'm trying to throw to my teammate downfield and there's someone standing in front of me, I'm trying to, like, without traveling, because I have to keep my pivot, but I have to throw around them. So this is a forehand throw around the person in front of me. This is a backhand throw around them. And this is a hammer over the top of them. And this is a scuba over the top of them. So if you're guarding me and I'm trying to throw a scuba, it's like that over the top. So I'm releasing it in a way that makes it hard for you to block it. Yeah. Same, again, forehand. Yeah, I mean, if you have fast reaction time, you might jump, but I could throw this way, I could throw that way. So there's a lot of room to cover to guard somebody.
I've seen Jack go, nearly into like a full split at times just to be able to get a disc off. And you see a lot of people contort their bodies in really weird ways. But then you'll watch them and they don't always just like roll to the ground and then try to pop up. Sometimes they just pop right from there and they're able to just continue running up and down the field. So you need, kind of going back to the archetype that we talked about, you need to have both length, but strength and control too.
I think you'd be amazed at how much power you can generate just with the flick of your wrist and the amount of spin that you can generate just with the flick. Like I can hold my hand out here and not move anything else except my wrist and throw a disc maybe like 30 yards. Yeah. And so you add your entire kinetic energy, your entire body to that. People can throw it 100+ yards, but just the amount of spin and the amount of power that is in your wrist alone, I think would surprise you.
A frisbee behaves like no other projectile in sport, and its trajectory is dependent on any number of tiny factors, from the angle of your shoulders to the position of your fingers. These links in your body all form the kinetic chain. Your perfect throw happens when all the links work together. If you were to only use your wrist to throw, your translational kinetic energy, the disc's movement through space, is 1.8 joules, while the disc's rotational kinetic energy is 1 joule. Now, if you were to add your shoulder and elbow, those numbers increase to 9.7 and 3 joules, respectively. A full pull from Marques Brownlee produces 41 joules.
So the power aspect is really coming from the full kinetic chain and how you're actually able to generate force and produce force into your hand as you're throwing the disc. Does anybody have a disc? Yeah. Oh, perfect. So like, let's say I'm pulling here and obviously like, maybe I'll go from the backside. What I'm trying to do with that crossover step, and I like to step behind. I don't know how you like to step necessarily, Jack. Like, do you step behind, you step in front? So I like to step behind, create the length here. So I'm trying to get my right shoulder. I'm trying to get my right shoulder and my left hip as far away from each other as possible while also loading into my left hip so I can kind of uncoil from my hip and then from my back and then all the way through the arm to create as much force as possible.
There's basically two main throws. There's basically flick and backhand. Those have two different grips. Backhand, there's also like over the top throws, which is the same throw as a flick. Basically there's gonna be the flick grip right here. And a lot of it's more like wrist position. So you can throw it like that or like that, flat. So you're going to here, sort of cocking it back right here so you can flick forward and it comes off. It's all about this middle finger, and basically that middle finger is the last point of contact. It's what the disc is spinning off of. It's way more about spin than it is about speed. So like the more the spin you generate, the faster and more accurate it'll be. If you're throwing it to this side of the field over here, you're gonna throw flick most of the time. If you throw it to this side of the field, now it's gonna be backhand. So this one instead of here, you're switching it up so all 4 fingers are kind of underneath right here. And thumb's gonna be right on top, kind of where these ridges are. And it's just 4 fingers. Some people have a finger out here, but I think the better way to get maximum spin is just 4 fingers underneath, folded underneath. Again, thumb right here. And this one, you're gonna cock your wrist back and spin it this way. So backhand is basically the exact opposite. On a flick, you're going forward. The backhand, you're flicking back. Flick your hand backwards in a backwards motion. This one's a lot more arm too. And at the very end, it's like kind of snapping a towel. The only other one that's pretty common is a hammer. So it's basically you're gonna hold it in the flick grip. And the way I learned is you literally just throw it like a baseball and the disc is gonna naturally turn over. You wanna throw it at a little bit of an angle right here. So it's kind of started on that upside down trajectory, and then the harder you throw it, the further it'll go, and it'll eventually turn out and flatten out upside down when you go like that. But you're holding it just like a flick here, and you're throwing it over the top just like a baseball. There's one more throw called the scoober. Again, it's the same grip as the flick. So flick, hammer, and scoober, it's all with this grip right here. So hammer, you start from over here. Sometimes there's like the defender's playing you different ways. So the defender's on this side, it's kind of a opposite side hammer. So you bring it from back here and you flick it over your body this way as opposed to this way. So you're gonna flick it. And again, you're just generating a ton of spin off the finger.
No problems for Jack there as he drops the scoober in perfectly.
Yeah, I feel like I would equate hands in Frisbee to maybe hands in tennis. It's a very similar motion. I played tennis back in the day, and I feel like it was easy, maybe slightly easier to learn how to throw with some of that tennis background of sort of that wrist flick and strong wrists and being able to like sort of sync that up and also have the balance of powerful hands, but as well hands that have some touch for the softer throws and everything in between. Like there's different kinds of catch. Obviously the ones that are like a high that you're jumping to catch, you have to go up for one-handed, but like a typical normal catch, like the safest way to catch, I guess, to guarantee you're gonna catch it, is hand on top, hand on bottom, and you're just, I think they call it a pancake catch.
It's one thing to have raw power, but if you don't have the technical aspects where I can say, hey, I'm gonna put a little bit more pressure on my pointer finger and it's gonna make the disc do this, or I'm gonna, rotate my wrist or rotate my hand in such a way that it's gonna, put a different angle on the disc. If you're just saying, hey, I'm just gonna throw it as hard as I can, you're not gonna be able to really be successful.
Oh. I know. I was like, damn, I really have to commit to this, man. That was gonna be easy.
This is for the game. Up into the end zone. Who's gonna get there? It's gone! Jack Williams takes it down!
Committing to a tricky catch is risky enough, but when the disc is just out of reach, it's time to fly.
But really, the best way to do a layout is actually get up to full speed and then just let yourself go. And almost kind of fall forward and get a little bit of an extra push off of your calves. That was nice.
Sick, man.
What'd you get to, like 75% speed?
Yeah, a little less.
Yeah. So Tristan here is going to really exemplify good layout form where he's actually going to land right on his chest and kind of on his hips at the same time. You really want to actually use the kind of dual impact to really offload the ribs, offload the upper extremities. That way you're not having any like floosh or fall on outstretched hand injuries. The key point in catching the disc, as we may see with Ethan here, is as he's catching the disc, he's also kind of trying to turn it over. He didn't quite get his hand under, but sometimes when you lay out and you essentially land with your hand open, the disc hits the ground and gets knocked out of your hand, especially on maybe like a bumpier field, think like a grass field versus a turf field. But really in this situation, you want to be able to turn it over and actually do it. Nice, Tristan. Very nice. So Tristan's able to impact the ground and turn the disc over in his hand all at the same time. Last one, Ethan. Here you go. Yeah, nice. So Ethan does a trailing edge one there.
That was nice.
And really has to not only catch the disc, flip it over, but also stop the rotation in the opposite direction. And usually that's when people tend to drop the disc. So really one of the key things for diving is not landing like this, where your hands hit first. That's where, like in a lot of sports, you end up having these what are called foosh injuries or fall on an outstretched hand injury, where you break a hand, finger, forearm bones, tear forearm muscles, or even have issues all the way up to the elbow, like your UCL injury that you would typically see in a baseball player, you can also have just from hitting the ground. So they did a really good job, and they've been playing for years and been laying out like that for years, where they know how to dissipate force really well, where their hands might hit, but they tend to be a little bit wider, but they really take the impact a lot on the chest and on like the front of the hips, where you have a little bit more padding essentially, whether it's from just bone itself that's a little bit firmer, not as brittle, or even just have padding from just musculature.
Turf versus grass is sort of a huge point of contention. I feel like anytime we see a soft grass field, we're thanking our lucky stars, because they're few and far between, and not just the feet, but the whole body feels so much better when you're playing on grass. And something that has a little bit more give.
Turf burn, especially in the UFA, is something that you have to deal with constantly because the turf is artificial and also has the pebbles or kind of like rubber pellets under. Some fields have mostly rubber pellets, some have like sand pellets, which are kind of interesting to both play on and lay out on. Yeah, you do get a ton of turf burn, which you have to like disinfect, wrap up and everything because turf is inherently dirty, it's outside. Versus like on grass, you'll slide a little bit more effectively because of the moisture content of the grass.
The picture is crystallized and we know where we stand. We know we have to win this game, and boy, do I want to win. Let's f***ing go, okay?
Hell yeah.
All right, break it down. Come on, Ollie.
Touch each other, touch each other, touch each other. New York on two, New York on two. 1, 2. 1, 2! New York!
It's game day, and there's just one more thing you should know about. Competitive Ultimate Frisbee has a relatively high injury rate of between 6 and 22 injuries per 1,000 hours. Breaking these injuries down by area, you can see most of that is in the lower body. As for what causes these injuries, rapid directional changes lead to the brunt of them, with overuse injuries causing a quarter. Contact with other players still contributes 15%, and the turf itself resulted in 10% of injuries.
On 3, ready, 1, 2. Stone cold. Get to it.
I've been incredibly lucky given what I've seen some of my teammates go through. You know, you see a lot of shoulder injuries and hamstrings, a lot of knee injuries. Sort of the entire body kind of goes through the gauntlet in Frisbee. Nothing safe, it feels like, you know, from the head down to the toes.
There's a good amount of actually hip injuries that kind of, I think I detect a little bit more because that's maybe where my focus goes. The socket of the hip from getting impacted from not dissipating force properly through the musculature can sometimes grow extra bone. It follows something called Wolff's Law, which essentially the bone gets stimulated and it says, okay, I'm gonna put more down there to kind of accommodate force. And generally that's really helpful for us, especially, you know, you see older people with like osteoporosis, when they get up and walk and they do some strength training, they actually feel a lot better. They have better bone mineral composition. It does sometimes act poorly and create, you know, these bone spurs, whether it's at the knee or at the hip or otherwise, that specifically at the hip can sometimes lead to small labrum tears that, if they go untreated, essentially will lead into larger labrum tears that sometimes require surgery. Concussions is, you know, something that has been a real point of emphasis, not only with the league, but like with me as an individual. Having had, you know, concussions from playing Ultimate, and again, it's a non-contact sport, but sometimes when you're diving, your head kind of tends to snap down, and whether the head hits the ground or not, sometimes it can be a concussive-like mechanism. So head injuries, usually on diving or some kind of contact injury. Hey, I'm going up for the disc at the same time as Jack and my arm hits him by accident. Get up, Faye, get up, Faye.
I would say it just has basically everything I'm looking for in a sport. Throwing a baseball, throwing a football, there's nothing like throwing a Frisbee. There's so many different ways to throw it. Tons of running, tons of jumping. There's so many highlight plays and just like 1/4 of action. You know, I grew up playing every sort of sport there was when I was a kid, and Frisbee checks the most boxes for me. There's nothing like throwing and chasing a Frisbee that's just sitting out in space for you to go run down.
I mean, not only is Ultimate like a really, you know, young and exciting and growing sport, spreading all across the US and internationally, but I think one of the best things about Ultimate is the community and, you know, how accepting everybody is in the community, and you can really find yourself as a professional working in the professional space and not necessarily being a player. To close out, like, it's a combination of, you know, my favorite aspects of every single sport that I've ever played, and create such a great team atmosphere when everybody's really bought in, and, you know, the community, you know, is really supporting you, and at the end of the day, you're running around playing Frisbee and throwing around with your best friends.